Welcome to Keep It Humane, the podcast,
where we talk about animal control, shelters, and animal welfare, and the people doing the work.
With your hosts,
Ashlee Bishop.
And sometimes Ashlee Bishop.
And Daniel Ettinger, helping people help animals. All right, let's do this. Welcome to another episode of Keep It Humane, the podcast. It's a full house. And we have somebody back from all the houses. I think you like that, right? That's a good play.
Look at you.
That was a good play. That was a good one.
All right, let's hear about it. We got to hear about the houses, dude.
Oh my God, it was amazing. Took the kids to Universal for a week and holy hot though. It was probably about 30 degrees warmer down there than I'm used to.
With 100% humidity.
Oh yeah. It was in the 90s, like mid to high 90s all week. But it was everything I could have wanted and more. So it was fantastic. One of my kids got picked to do the Ollivanders. So we got that wand. Oh my God, I came up with so many wands. It's not even funny.
No way.
Oh yeah, if you go to my Facebook, the video's on there.
I saw the pictures. I didn't see video.
How long have you been home then?
We got back yesterday about 3:30, so not even 24 hours.
Wow, you're still living in that world of.
Hence the reason I was late to the recording, because I'm still on vacation time.
We have a big show, so we appreciate you doing that this week, and
we miss you.
We miss you. Yeah, I know last week it was tough working at the candy factory, so it's good to have you back.
And you know what? Honeydukes needed me.
What's a honeyduke? I don't know what that is.
It's from Harry Potter.
Oh, I didn't know either. It's okay, Ashlee. Mine, I didn't know
It's
either.
the candy store in Harry Potter. Honeydukes.
Bad Ashlee. I'm sorry.
Texas Bishop, how are things in the South?
Oh, just being South as usual. It's hot. Me and my husband were sweating up a storm yesterday. He got me my long-awaited tulle chest that's purple. I'm so happy. It's beautiful. So I got all my sewing stuff in it already. But we were in the garage and it both of us came in just drenched. I think I took 3 or 4 showers yesterday because we were doing stuff outside and then doing stuff. Texas is we're getting towards that heat. Our heat really doesn't come until the latter part of July, but it's coming. So, but we're good. We're good. Things are rocking and rolling. I'm excited for our new facility. We had a meeting, like I said, last week. I am the only person that talked to the architect for the whole 5 hours for the most part.
Wow.
Oh, good.
It was 5 hours, but it was amazing. Shouts out to our team. They're amazing. And just the support, y'all. I'm so lucky, and I say this all the time. Our chain of command is just amazing. And I can't believe that municipalities like this exist. So if you're ever thinking about going into municipal work in animal welfare, try it out. You just never know, because where I came from, my first municipality, it was not like this. I mean, it almost made me leave animal welfare. But I ended up where I am right now. And God, I'm so thankful for my chain of command all the way up to our city manager. I just have to shout them out all the time because they're just top notch, amazing human beings. They trust what we're doing. They trust me. It's been amazing. It's been such a wild ride. I'm excited. I'm excited for the next couple of months.
I'm excited for you. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And I think
I remember the excitement of the new building.
You're basically going to be seeing everything in blueprints. Everything you do, you're just gonna be like, that could be a blueprint. That could be a blueprint. So
I don't know. They're like, you're gonna have to put all the electrical outlets and how many you're gonna need. And I'm like, bro, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Get those ones that have the USB-C just already plugged in, so you don't have to get the little.
And make sure all of them have covers.
In the wet area,
no matter where they are, so you can spray down any room.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we were going through this whole thing and I'm still stuck in our old ways and what we're doing in our old facility. I was like, whoa, we don't have room for that. And then I was like, hold on.
You can make
Hold
room for
on.
that.
The reality is that this room needs to be 3 separate rooms and we're all using it for the like 3 things. So that was I told her, I was like, you're gonna have to slap me out of it because I can't I'm still stuck in this mode of what we've been doing for so long and making it work. And I didn't know that you could separate, the intake room and the treatment room and, all that stuff. So it's gonna be a learning curve for me, but I'm excited and I think we have a really strong architect team who really knows what they're doing.
That is super awesome. Super
How
awesome.
about you, Dan? How are you?
Hey, things are great. We got the Cat 2 challenge officially
I got my
launched.
stickers.
You got your
Me too.
stickers.
Mhm.
You got
Sometimes Ashley Bishop.
so I kind of I may have personalized that envelope a little bit. So um, so we got the stickers out there to raise, it's a fundraiser in a sense. I think people probably
Mhm.
look at it at first and be like, I'm not paying $5 for one sticker. Obviously, it gets a little less expensive the more you buy, but proceeds of that goes to Fix Our Future through the Bissell Pet Foundation. So just make sure you're I guess aware of that. It's not just going in my pocket. We're trying to put it into something that's going to help fund fund this just the funness around the Cat 2 challenge. We're up to 30, can I say it, 30 fucking cats on my leg plus
Hell yeah.
plus
Nice.
two, so really 32. It's pretty crazy to even think that we got this far. So shout
My
out to
husband. Oh, sorry.
no, I was just going to shout out everybody that has it on their leg. So shout out to all those people.
My husband saw the stickers and he's like, "What the hell is this?" And I was just like, "It's a really good cause." And then I told him about the story, and he was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And I was like, "All right."
You know what I
You
do
know,
now? It's like my business card, and I'll just hand it out and say, Google, put it in, like, take a photo, put it in Google Images, and it pulls up the Forbes story.
nice.
Sick.
Pretty crazy, pretty crazy.
Nice.
And the other thing, it can't do the show without announcing we officially launched the Certified Animal Control Professional
Don't say
module.
we,
Yeah,
you.
no, you.
Well, okay, fine, but still, we as like Keep It Humane launched
Okay.
um, the certified
Amazing.
the certified animal control officer, well, certified animal control professional um, online e-learning. It's the first of its kind. I know there's some other online self-paced stuff out there, but this isn't like death by PowerPoint. This is true e-learning. So I'm excited to have that roll in, and you can check it out, all that out at keepithumane.com. That's what I got going on.
The little icon in the upper corner of my screen here, for those of you that are watching, so I've got that as the patch that you had sent me
Mm.
or given me. And I had that on my bag and I missed an opportunity, unfortunately, because I didn't realize somebody actually stopped at Universal to take a look at it. But I
Oh,
didn't know about it
wow.
until after they were past me and like the connection was made because she talked to my husband, unfortunately. But
That's
Tim
out.
was Tim was
Mr.
probably like,
Bishop.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a thing. That's awesome. Also, speaking of tattoos, before we jump in, you guys got some cool tattoos while you were there. So,
yes, we did.
but not the cat too. So we still got to get
No,
you on that.
no, not the cat twos, but I got the Deathly Hollows.
All right,
Hell yeah.
we got a really exciting show.
Yes.
I know she's been waiting patiently in the background, so let's wait no longer to introduce Dr. Sara Pizano from Team Shelter USA. Welcome to Keep It Humane, the
Thank you.
podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We're really excited to have you, and just really want to start with with kind of your background and intro. I mean, it's obviously it's on your website for people to go, but that's no fun. They want to hear it from you. So obviously they can go to teamshelterusa.com. But who are you? How did you get into animal welfare? What are you doing now, etc.?
So people ask me if I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian my whole life, and I say no. I didn't decide until I was 3 years old, and that's when I announced it to my family, and that's what happened.
Hmm.
So in the 90s, I graduated from Cornell vet school. I had already worked at the Animal Medical Center in New York City and realized I got connected with the underground. It was very different back then in the 80s, especially in New York City. I got connected with the underground, adoption sort of. We don't want animals to get euthanized, so let's try to save their lives. And that was kind of my introduction to animal welfare back then. tremendous euthanasia for space. Since that time, I just devoted my career to animal welfare, working in private, always large shelters, private shelters. I was a municipal director. And since 2013, I've been doing exclusively consults. And that's been incredibly fascinating to have this bird's eye view and all this experience behind me. And I feel that now, as Team Shelter USA and a consultant, I'm just a messenger, you guys. Like, I'm just seeing all these amazing things work. And so when I go to shelters, I always tell them, I didn't make this stuff up. This is what really works now. And talking about our beliefs and our opinions, boy, have mine changed over the years, as we all should evolve. And so I wanted to shout out Maddie's Fund because they sponsored, I'm part of Maddie's Million Pet Challenge now, and they sponsored the go-to guide for animal services, and that's a free resource. It's online, it's very resource heavy, and it's on my website, teamshelterusa.com. So I encourage everybody to look at it, read it, share it with your leaders, whether it's municipal or nonprofit. That's my elevator pitch.
I need to come up with one of those so when people see my post. So can you tell us a little bit more about like what the ultimate goals are? Like,
yeah,
are you following the no kill movement 2020, what is it, 2030 now?
I don't know if they
Have they updated it to 2025?
Yeah,
From 2025
I personally don't use that term, but I've committed my career to, first of all, my ultimate goal, and this sounds kind of crazy, I don't believe there's a place for dangerous animals to be euthanized, for example. But other than that, I don't think it's a good plan for animals to go into shelters and be in confinement. No matter, I mean, we're all loving, caring, empathic people, but it's not a home. It's not fun for animals for the most part. So such a huge part of my time is spent helping communities, municipalities, and nonprofits, like, make sure you're focusing on community programs and better alternatives by helping maybe people keep their pets in loving homes, having enough subsidized spay neuter, access to care, as you know, is a huge issue. So number one, keeping them out of the shelter without overburdening other organizations. It's not just about kicking the can. If they come in the shelter, the most important thing is the quickest length of stay. We have to get them out quickly and all that entails. And while they're there, they should be as comfortable as possible with respect to housing enrichment and all of those things. So what I see is this overarching broken system that is sheltering system in our country. And I think in the last even 5-10 years, we've just come so far. But those are the ultimate goals. Keep animals out of shelters. And if they come in the shelter, get them out as soon as possible.
Dr. Pizano, I think you're singing the song that all of us want to see in some aspects, right? We know shelter systems were created out of necessity for communities, right? It's not the shelter's problem, it's a community problem. And I think the shelters have been designed, funded, and operate in a way maybe historically, and they haven't caught up to current practices or current, maybe that's not the right way to say it, current expectations. I would love a world. I would love to be able to design a shelter where no traditional dog catcher kennels exist. You know, it's all like single rooms. They have couches and beds, and like it looks like a house for them, so we can get them prepared for the real world. But I don't know if we'll see a time in our generation that it's going to be funded in that way. It's just not, the funding's not there. When you talked about it just a second ago, length of stay, your The PDF, what's the name of the PDF that you have on your website?
The best practice playbook for animal shelters is
Yes.
the hard copy book. That's for
Okay.
sale on Amazon. The free guide is the go-to guide for animal services.
So let's talk about that really quick. In there,
Sure.
so coming from the law enforcement side of animal welfare, animal control, uh, it suggests, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there shouldn't be a stray hold for puppies, kittens, or cats under the age of 5 months. How would that work if animals are still considered property in this country?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think let's just start with cats. So we've had the best of intentions, right? All these decades. So there's seven state laws that have stray holds that are longer than 7 days. There's some that have stray holds for cats, all made with the best intention of, well, our goal is to reunite cats with their owners. But the flaw in that, well, there's many flaws. One is cats simply don't get lost. They are incredibly intelligent in knowing their surroundings. We have GPS studies that show they go in the same pathways. They know where their food sources are. So I want to be very clear. This is about cats who are of good body weight, right? So if a cat is injured, sick, skinny, no hair, okay, that's a cat we should take into the shelter. But if they're visually healthy and they're outside, then we shouldn't bring them into the shelter because number one, they're not lost. Number two, they're of good body weight. But then if we do take them into the shelter, less than 2% are reunited with their families. And so if you look at the go-to guide under the community cat section, there's a pie chart, which is a game changer visual, I think, for people, because the pie chart is a circle and there is a minute little sliver of cats that enter shelters in the United States. And the whole circle is the number of cats that are outside. So you can say, wait a minute, we're crowded right now. There's no way we can take in all those cats, nor should we, because it doesn't ultimately yield what our goal is, which is reunification. So then we say, okay, well, we want to make sure those cats are okay and find them a good home. Well, half of Americans let their cats in and out. I personally don't. I'm too paranoid, but many people do. So when we take those visually healthy cats into the shelter, we're wasting resources on cats that don't need us besides just spay neuter. When we look at the data for puppies, so that's cats and kittens as a whole. For puppies under 5 months, we also, there's litters of puppies coming in. Typically, they're coming in litters. And that's, again, there's not a litter of stray puppies walking down the street. So if you look at the data, there's also minute percent of reclaims for that population. And they're the most vulnerable to take them into the shelter. So just saying, wait a minute, there's another way that we can help those most vulnerable. So that's the reason.
So, so I look at it from both perspectives, from animal control wise and shelter, because I encompass both of them. So for me, like we tell people all the time, like we have a responsibility not only to the animals that we have, but also to the community that we serve. So for instance, like on loose animals or loose cats, we have a responsibility to remove those animals from the population if the citizens want to. How do we become, especially these days, more preventative than reactive, when I feel like there's all these different scopes of thinking right now that are all battling each other and are also causing kind of almost turmoil within the field of how animal shelters operate and the reality of what we're going through right now? How do we become more preventative than reactive? Because I feel like that's where we were going, and then COVID hit, and then all of a sudden we're not there anymore. We're seeing more animals than ever coming through our shelters. Everybody's full. I'm having to make those tough decisions. Unfortunately, I'm in the South. I'm in Texas. How do we change that narrative?
Ashlee, that's such a great question. And remember, I'm from an animal control background as
Yeah.
well. And what I just talked about, and let's just start with cats, is it's not a free for all for cats. I'm a homeowner and I'm a crazy cat lady. However, it would be unacceptable for a cat to spray in my front door. That would just be unacceptable to me. So, what we know is, and I really want you to look at that pie chart because whew, it'll blow your mind, is that taking them into the shelter, removing them from that situation is not the answer. The answer is what's going on there. And most of the time, it's lack of spay neuter, and maybe there's an overpopulation of cats, or your neighbor didn't have access to spay neuter. My teammate Cameron Moore, who's now at the University of Florida and part of Maddie's Million Pet Challenge, started this program back in 2007 so that the cats did not come in the shelter. They were spayed and neutered and put right back where they were already being cared for. That was 5,400 cats the first year, and she got 12 complaint calls that were really easily rectified. So people just need help. And it really is not anything new. It was before COVID, the Million Cat Challenge. There were less than 3 million euthanasias of cats. And we see so many benefits of this program. Reduced enforcement calls, because guess what? ACOs are going back to the same places, right? And the cats are reproducing, and all we're doing is removing them. We're using our resources to remove them, but nobody's thinking about spay neuter. We know that when we do focus on targeted spay neuter, we reduce enforcement complaints and shelter intake plummets. So there's just lots of data now and great studies and programming to support that. But again, we want to help those constituents that are calling. It's not like, oh, we don't pick up cats anymore, click. No, that's not the point of this. Tell us what's going on. Let's see how we can help be a resource and resolve this problem.
So I have a twofold question here. How does this impact with the people that are calling saying, hey, my cat's missing, it got out the door, it's not coming home? And the second part of that is, how are we verifying that they are spayed and neutered if we're just putting them back out because we're not taking them into the shelter?
Great questions. Okay, so don't forget, if the cat enters the shelter, more than 98% of the time, they're not going to be reunified. So what should be happening ideally, and listen, remember, not every community can do this, but I'm going to tell you what the levels are. Ideally, when somebody goes to your website, there's a spay neuter pathway for the person to have a subsidized spay neuter if it's an outside cat or what have you. They should be ear tipped and or tattooed. So they're identified as spayed and neutered. And by the way, rabies vaccinated. So now I have less cats, but a higher community immunity against rabies. So that's an important public health issue.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about this program, pretend the cat goes into the shelter and the shelter is going to do the spay neuter and return. Now I'm returning the cat to the neighborhood. So that's going to happen, unless the cat is sick or injured, right? Or part of a true enforcement case, hoarding, rabies suspect, something like that. That cat is going to be returned to the neighborhood. So to me, and to all of us that support this program, it really is the return to owner for cats. Now, remember too, when I'm talking about these cats coming in, they have no identification. There's no chip, there's no collar. And so that's how we can spay neuter and not, Daniel, to your point, worry about, oh, am I going to get in trouble? Am I going to get sued because I spayed or neutered somebody's cat? Well, you're not liable because there was no identification linking them, and there's no case law for that either. Mm. And what was the second part of the question, Ashlee?
What about the second part was really how are we avoiding overpopulation if the animals aren't going in and we're verifying that they're spayed or neutered if they are just being allowed to roam?
Right. Great question. And listen, when Dr. Hurley said this during COVID, just leave the cats in place, I broke out in hives. I was like, what are you talking about? But if you look at this pie chart from their study from 2022, it's in the Frontiers article. Again, it's in the guide, and I can pull it out. Daniel, I'll email it to you. Maybe you can put it next to this podcast, because less than 3% of all the cats that have access to the outside are going into shelters. So there is no way that we can verify all of those tens of millions when we're taking in those cats, and we're overcrowded with just cats that we're taking in because they were free roaming. The norm now is that those cats simply don't go into the shelter. But again, we want to do the best we can to provide spay neuter, but there are tens of millions of cats allowed outside, and we don't always have the capacity to spay neuter all of them that are coming to us. And so wouldn't that be great? But we simply don't have the capacity, which means we need to target the ones that might have some negative interaction with people. But that graph will, that pie chart will really bring home that message, because I thought the same thing, like, oh my gosh. And so we realized that if we're right now interfacing with less than 3% of those cats, I mean, it's great that we're going to spay neuter them. We're going to then reduce that population maybe for that neighbor, right? That neighbor has cats. They got out of control because they didn't have access to spay neuter, but now we can help them spay neuter and have a stable population.
And not to be like the Debbie Downer or the cynical person here, but how do we ensure? So let's say we do that in a community, right? We spay neuter, and over time they just naturally reduce in population. But we never do that to the neighboring community, and the cats just come back. And so we create that vacuum effect, and we're not. It's tough. And not to say we shouldn't do it. I'm just wondering, like, is this a reversible epidemic with, an invasive wild animal essentially?
Yeah, because I feel like, to just kind of get off of that, me personally, like a couple of weeks ago, I literally had 5 cats come in. They were all TNR'd. They were all thin. They all came in. We had to euthanize them because they were either hit by cars, mauled by animals, things like that. The big push for me, we push microchips on everything. I don't care if it's TNR cat, your own personal pet, something, we push microchips for absolutely everything. And it's like, for these cats, I feel like the big consensus with TNR is like, yes, we are saving lives. And that I completely understand. Nobody wants to euthanize animals. But in a sense, when I'm getting 5 cats that I have nowhere to know where they belong, I don't know who to tell that these poor animals were mauled or hit or whatever. I just feel like it's so counterintuitive on what we're trying to do when these poor animals are out there essentially living on their own. Yes, they might have community cat people that take care of them, but I mean, that's 5 cats that were TNR'd all in 1 week that came into me in horrible condition. They needed medical attention to the point where they needed to be euthanized. I mean, I find it hard to believe that we're really shifting to a point where TNR is being helpful when we're just seeing this come in all the time, and we're still seeing stray cats just continue to multiply, even with this push of spay and neuter.
And we saw this. This was
I hear
legislation.
you, and remember,
Doc, hang on one second. This was legislation in San Diego, where San Diego Humane was essentially being criticized as essentially breaking the state law by abandoning cats back in the community. So what you're saying tracks
I'm
with that.
familiar with that.
Yeah.
So first of all, Ashlee, to your point though, as a shelter, that's why you're there, for those cats who are injured, sick, what have you. And that's what you're seeing. But you have to remember that is not representative to all the cats that are outside. And so there are millions of cats living out there who are in good condition, but you're not seeing them because you're supposed to be getting the sick and the injured. So I think it would be helpful to take a step back and look at all the data. You can do community cat estimates for the number in your community. So you see the number that are coming in while you're seeing some that are sick or injured. That is not the whole story of all the cats that are outside. This is also not community cats. This is not ferals. It's a very small percentage overall that are feral. Again, 50% or more of cat owners allow their cats in and out. So it's not true that nobody is caring about these cats. What we also know is there's a lot of people, sometimes cats are, the neighbor thinks it's their cat. I think it's my cat. The other neighbor thinks it's their cat, because people love to feed cats and they like cats. And some of the cats like to stay outside. With respect to abandonment, and I'm very familiar with the San Diego case, remember that the definition and intention of abandonment is I am putting a cat or an animal in an unfamiliar place. When somebody brings a cat to you and says, I don't know where they came from, but they're, at my door and they have no identification, the cat is familiar with that area and they are 10 to 15 times more likely. I'm quoting like lots of different studies that we have now. Thank goodness we have this information now, right? They're 10 to 15 times more likely to go home, right from where we put them back. And that is their familiar territory. So it's not in a line with the definition of abandonment. The San Diego case is really distilled down to one individual person that believed that a person had to claim the cat as the owner and the one that's taking care of them. But to me, it's disrespectful to the intelligence of cats, because most of them are healthy, and the ones going into shelters, remember, should be the ones that are sick or injured.
In a lot of these jurisdictions, municipalities don't even have any sort of ordinance that say they have to pick up a stray cat. So if it's brought in over the counter, that may be one thing depending on the situation. But with dogs, and let's maybe change to that, like there is ordinance that says you must, in a lot of these jurisdictions, impound dogs for public health and public safety. And so that changes things a little bit. With cats, it's more optional, and maybe it's practice versus law.
Yes, exactly.
What kind of shift are you seeing, Doc, on, municipalities in your time in animal welfare? Like, what are you seeing that's positive, and kind of what are you seeing that's negative right now? Because again, I feel like a lot of the last 10 years has been really polarizing for all of us between both nonprofit and municipalities. So what are you seeing on the municipality side, that's positive, or where that needs to do a little bit better, and how this guide can help with that?
Great. You won for best question in the podcast today, because that's such a great question. And it's so important. I started in the 80s. If there was an empty cage in a shelter, we knew it meant euthanasia, right?
Yeah.
And when I started doing consults, that was 2013. I've always had a section of my business where I had retainers. So shelters got me for pro bono, right? And we were choosing shelters in 2013 who were saving 10%, 20%. There was still so much euthanasia for space back then. Fast forward to now, we are not seeing those numbers. So when I now go into a shelter and see empty cages, I can pretty much know that it's just because they either, they came in and they got out quickly. For the most part, the lowest euthanasia rates I'm seeing that are applying for our programs might be even one was 50%, but most are like 70, 80%. A lot of them are over 90. And I hate using those percentages because I don't really believe in them, because I don't personally use the term no kill. But I think that there is a place for euthanasia of large, dangerous dogs, right, who are going to hurt another animal or people. But, it's really not about the percentages. It's about, I could have a 50% save rate, but I only euthanize dangerous dogs and severe medical dogs or cats. So to answer your question, I never dreamed that back in the 80s, I remember just sitting at my desk, like with tears coming down my face, thinking, how are we ever going to get out of this? So now municipalities want to do the right thing. They want to maybe they can't always do subsidized spay neuter, but they would like to do more reactive things. But that's the shift that I'm proactive things, but that's the shift where I think specifically municipalities have come so far, but there's still a long way to go because so many of us are kind of trapped in that old school reactive animal control, right? But the great thing about today also, don't forget, we only have, since 2001, the Association for Shelter Veterinarians, the NACA position statements. Like now we have all these amazing guidelines. And so I never dreamed we would be where we are today. So much better. And it's funny because I was at a shelter that was handling like 30,000 animals a year back in, probably 2000. When I did a follow-up consult, they were taking in 13,000 a year just because of all these great proactive programs. And a new staff person was like, "You don't understand, Dr. Pizano. We have a really high shelter intake and it keeps going." I'm like, "No, you don't understand," because you have to understand this gargantuan improvement in the entire industry. But I'm happy to say that now my work, I feel like I'm on the late adopter curve, because so many shelters are doing such great work, and not that people have always worked hard, but the systems are so much better, but we're not done. Still much room for improvement.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lee.
What about the areas where there is a veterinarian desert and there isn't enough space within the veterinarian realm to be able to do all the spays and neuters, that people that are owning their own pets are struggling because it's taking months to even get their pets in? Like, how do we combat that? Because if you can't get into a vet clinic, it doesn't help.
Well, listen, access to care is not just an issue in deserts or with people stricken with, lower socioeconomic levels. A lot of people are struggling with access to care. So number one. Number two, I just got back from Southeast. I do a lot of work in Kentucky. I've done consults in more than half the state. I have a huge cat spay neuter program, as a matter of fact, there in more than 26 counties. But we just returned from an area that is exactly that. It's very rural. It's, a subsidized spay neuter is more than an hour away. And it's not possible for somebody struggling financially to take a day off of work, to drive an hour. What are they going to do? Sit there and wait, So there's a lot of things happening in rural underserved areas. And I am particularly in that region of Kentucky working with more than 12 funders to try to cobble together access. But there's an organization, you probably heard of, Rural Humane. It's pretty new.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is specifically for people, in the work that I've done in Kentucky, Ashlee, what I find is, people that are in rural underserved areas often silo themselves. And when we have made a lot of connections for those shelters and communities throughout the state. Open Door is a veterinary business model that is also focusing on access to care. And in underserved areas, pethelp.org is one of those sort of digital movements to try to connect people, so you can log on there and see where the closest subsidy is for you. People always ask me, like, what's the answer? How are we going to find vets? Or we've been looking for a full-time vet for X number of years, or what have you. And the answer is, well, let's be creative. I work closely with Fix the Future. I work closely with all different kinds of mobile programs. So when I was doing this consult last week with Cameron on behalf of Maddie's Million Pet Challenge, the Kentucky Humane Society brought the caravan and they did 74 surgeries while we were there. So in that particular region, my goal is to organize funders to provide that. But it is it's not just obviously a problem in that part of Kentucky. There's lots of mapping going on. There's funders that really, like the Duffield Foundation, they are really serious about helping with access to care. But there is no one right magic answer. It is United Spay Alliance doing trainings to teach private practices how to do high volume. Maybe it's a mobile unit. Maybe there's a service provider I work with in Kentucky called Woodstock Animal Foundation, and they have a brick and mortar in Lexington, but the people, their team goes to these other 10 or 12 rural communities, and we've set up the surgery sites. So it's not like you have to deal with a mobile, the people go and do the surgery for the day. So there's no one right answer. It's let's be creative and let's figure it out. But it is a huge crisis, again, not just for people living in poverty, but so many middle income owners as well.
I love that you're out there doing that work, because to me, and this is where I think I know I'm polarizing, and I get some pushback on like my take on the whole no-kill terminology. And I get it. Like we've talked about it endlessly on this show. But I really think the work needs to be done where it's the access to care in the community. And that's why, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the smart shelter concept, Dr. P, but like that's where the smart shelter was born out of, to really create an identity around something that doesn't need arbitrary numbers to give you that victory or that success. It's really, what are you doing in the community that's going to make the change? Because shelters were never created to be a problem. Shelters were created to fix a problem.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. And then we have a lot of these just advocates out in the world making it seem like the shelter is the problem, when all the shelter is a reflection of the community trying to fix a problem. And so, my hat goes off to all the hard workers that are out there. I don't think success can be judged on just specifically numbers. I really don't, because data is only as good as what's reported. And so as we move forward, we have to take a different approach, and that's how we can provide care to people in communities. We have Dr. G on the show quite often. She's one of our favorite returning guests and a friend of ours, and she has the Rascal units in Ohio, where she's just out in these communities banging out spay and neuters, offering these services that, man, I would love to see an organization just basically create like an Amazon truck in every community, but it's for spay and neuter services, and they just go around. I'm telling you right now, and mark my words, I'll say it right here. If I won the lottery, like let's say I won one of these Powerballs, I guarantee you that I'm starting something like that, where we're just going out there, and especially in some of these communities that don't have access to care, like you said, those spaces that are an hour, an hour or 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Shit, we're pulling up. We're pulling up in these trucks, and we're helping these communities. And I think that's what this industry really needs to shift from. Obviously, we need shelters, like that's no doubt. But we have to look at ways to provide care in the community. And I think we'll get there. I think we're still kind of brand new in animal welfare in the whole. If you look at it, like if you look at animal welfare in 500 years, we're at the early stages of it. We're still in the first 200 years of it, essentially, in where we are in the timeline. So we have to keep pushing, and these programs that are out there, like yours, like Fix Our Futures, like Best Friends, ASPCA, NACA, all of them, they all have a major part in it, and we just have to continue to try to work together. That's the hardest thing, is getting people to drop those egos, including myself. But at the same time, I'm willing. I've always said that I'm willing to work with anybody. It's just sometimes it's hard to set those things up. So
but Daniel, so again, we're very collaborative. When I say we, I mean me at Team Shelter, Maddie's Million Pet Challenge. Like, we are so collaborative. So in terms of these deserts, the other ones we are referring people to is Fido Fixer. So Fido Fixer is doing exactly that. They're raising money to have rigs. I think they're in 8 states now. The other thing I'm seeing, and what we do, and Cameron and I talk about this all the time, is we can go to a community, and we love doing areas, right? So we're not just going to one county. And that's why I like working in Kentucky, because the state is split into area development districts of 8 to 18 counties who work together on people stuff, but they never did animal stuff. So that's how my program with the Joni Bernard Foundation and cats. Thank you, Ashlee, on cue. Thank you. That was, thank you, Ashlee. Good job with the whole, with the exact amount of time. But we've done 50,000, so we funded $4.2 million in cat spay neuter in more than 26 counties so far. But Phyto Fixer is an example. And so what happens is, we went to this recent area in Kentucky. We met a veterinarian who just left her private practice, who started a nonprofit, and who is on fire for spay neuter, high volume. Want to know what the problem is? She's a woman without a country. She doesn't have a place to do it. But like right next door, I have a different service provider with a beautiful surgery suite that's used once a month. Once a month. So what we do is like, hey, did you know this? And we often connect people who are very close to each other. So to your point, Daniel, if you want to ask me what the number one problem is in animal welfare, it is everybody wanting the same thing and not working as a team to move forward. We spend a lot of time with divisive people and wasting our time arguing about language, when if we all work together and went in the same direction, I'm convinced we wouldn't have. And I do think there is still, and I know there is still great potential to reduce intake in shelters by helping people in better ways and not overburdening.
It's bananas. If you look back at the timeline, look at Caroline Earl White. She was told she couldn't be a part of the Pennsylvania SPCA at the time because she was a woman. And she was like, well, wait, I just want to fucking help. And so she gathered 30 strong women and said, let's make our own damn organization. And essentially we need to learn from that. It's like, why would we exclude somebody regardless of race, sex, etc.? Like, we shouldn't exclude anybody that has good intentions and wants to help. And like, we should all find ways to work together. We've tried to build bridges, and I think the damage from me, I'll own that, had already been done, because I am outspoken. Like, I do talk freely about how I feel, and maybe that's a bad thing to do, but at the same time, my intentions are to truly, as we say on the show all the time, help people, help animals, and that's hopefully the message that gets across at the end of the day, because that's always been the goal.
Yeah. And Daniel, who said this? Like, nobody ever, I forget who said this, nobody ever got criticized laying on the couch. Like, so if you're out there doing the work, talking and trying to make things better, you're vulnerable, especially today, right? You're vulnerable. Sure. But the reason I know, like, it's just been so humbling doing this consulting work, because I swear it is far exceeded my expectations. And early on, when we started consults in 2013, and I told you there was very high euthanasia rates, I would say, hey, you do these things, X, Y, Z, and I'm telling you, shelter intake's going to go down and you're going to euthanize less. And then shelters were calling us and saying, hey, we reduced euthanasia by 3,000 animals this year, 1,000 animals, 2,000. I was like, what's happening? So I looked at just 18 of those shelters early on. And the very first year, I never gave them funding. They weren't tracking this way. But in 18 of those shelters, there were 48,000 less euthanasias. And that was because they thought differently. They helped people in different ways. So that's why I know there is still potential to reduce intake of animals. I think still there's too many animals coming into shelters, and we should reserve the shelters for those that have no other better options, sick, injured, enforcement.
Since we're kind of like on this topic, how does your go-to guide help shelters communicate decisions of transparency right now? And I feel like such a polarizing, shelter community aspect of things. How does it help them, maybe gain that trust of the community. Because I know a lot of us are still seeing a lot of backlash because, no kill still very much the big outlier right now. If you're not no kill, you're the big bad shelter, don't go over there. When the reality is really reversed. Those of us who are struggling, we need the help.
100%. 100%. So the go-to guide, here's the thing again, back in the 80s, we had no information. We had very little data. Now we have studies not only that support and research, but more importantly, realistically, we have all of these programs and shelters that are succeeding. And so I think number one, it's very resource intensive. The guide is online, it's free. And I might say, hey, you should think about doing this. I'm not going to sit there and try to convince you, but here's like the 4 resources. So click, click, click on those links. And I think that we in animal welfare, I'm going to make massive generalities as an industry. Number one, we're very judgmental. Number two, our brains, we're human brains, are like traps. So if something happened in 1973 and we got traumatized from it, our entire protocol, policy, ordinance, and everything we believe will be created based on that bad experience. Our brains trigger and amplify the negative. It is very hard for us as an industry to change the narrative. And let me tell you something, I have worked so hard for so many years asking myself that question because listen, I'm not letting my cats outside. That's scary. No, I don't think if you surrender at a shelter, I think you're a bad person, right? And then all this research came out that people didn't want to surrender. They just needed temporary help that nobody was giving them. And I thought, holy cow, I wasted so much time being judgmental when I should have said, what can we do for you to help you keep your pet who you love so much, right? So those narratives need to change. And the guide is really giving you the information to question what you've been telling yourself all these years, right? So I think it's so helpful because I'm the poster child, you guys. My thinking about all of these things has changed so dramatically as I remember in COVID, when COVID first started, I don't know if you all were on those HOS calls early on, and people were saying something that I said, oh my God, that's the most creative thing I ever heard. How come I didn't think of that? So there's been such a breadth and depth of creativity, but it's our narratives, right? We don't want anything bad to happen to the animals that are presented to us. So we're going to make up all these rules to try to prevent that, right? So here's the thing. People want to know, do you have good intentions? That's what they want to know. And so you can turn so many critics into supporters. But at the end of the day, I am convinced, until somebody proves me otherwise, that people who are vile online, who may not be, they don't volunteer, they're not going to the shelter, they're vile and they're attacking you. There is an element, there's a mental health issue with a lot of people. I know in shelters, I one-on-one had to deal with them. They have told me they're bipolar. They have told me they struggle with, whatever mental illness. And so they have a hard time communicating with people effectively. And so they obsess about animals. So to answer your question, Ashlee, there will always be that level of people. You can turn so many people into advocates, but then there's going to be a point that say, you should never, ever, ever euthanize.
Dr. Pizano, it's overkill. There's someone that I think of that I see post that it does more, in my opinion, more harm than good. And no, again, you can still have your opinion, and we do here on this show, but I hope we're tactful, and we've had guests on from several different organizations that we may have differing opinions, but we still hear them out. I can't believe we've already gone up against the clock here. It seems like we could talk to you for another 4 hours and it would feel like 1 hour. There's a lot. You're more than welcome to come back on and chat more. I feel like we only got through like a fraction of the guide and some of the things that we wanted to talk about. But before we maybe put a bow on this, is there anything that you want to share, or Bishops, do you have any other final questions before we kind of wrap this up?
No, I'd love to have Dr. P back on, after this is out. I know it's fairly new, maybe like in the next year around the same time, to see how this has helped and what kind of data you've been able to gather from, the implementation of all of the ideas in this guide. So, yeah, I hope you come on to let us
Thank
know how it's
you.
all working.
And Wisconsin Bishop, you got anything? Because it's
No,
time.
I second. I mean,
Yeah.
Ashlee and I are one and the same.
Essentially, you are. You know what it's time
That's
for,
right.
though.
You're the same person, same brain.
Yep.
So
Doc,
yeah, I guess what I want to
yeah,
say is to shelters listening, you are,
Mhm.
whatever your challenges are, we all share the same empirical challenges, period. The difference is scale. So, whatever your issues are, I promise you, you're not alone. Please go online. If you don't know about the national organizations, please go online and you'll learn that you are not alone and there's lots of help out there.
there is. There
Mhm.
is. I just saw the Michael Jackson movie, so when you said you are not alone, I wanted to sing. But that probably would not be good for our listeners.
Do you
But
want me
it,
to sing it? I
uh,
could sing it if you like.
well, what it's time for, and I don't know if you know this, we have a final segment here on the show called let's AI our guest. Let's put it into the chat and see what it returns. So, without further ado, Dr. Paisano, if you've never AI'd yourself, this is what ChatGPT thinks of you. Dr. Sara Pizano is a veterinarian, speaker, author, and animal welfare consultant, best known for her work helping communities modernize animal control and sheltering systems. She is the founder of Team Shelter USA, a consulting organization that works with municipalities, shelters, and animal welfare organizations across the U.S. Her work focuses on improving outcomes for pets and people through data-driven decision making, community-based programs, shelter operations, field services, and strategic planning. She is a frequent presenter at animal welfare conferences and has become a prominent voice in discussions about the future of animal services. This is probably, it may be talking about you or me right here. I can't tell. Depending on who you ask, she's viewed either as an innovative reformer helping communities move beyond traditional shelter models, or as a disruptive figure challenging long held practices in animal control and sheltering. Either way,
Yeah.
she,
I
either
think I'm
way,
both.
either way, she has a significant influence on many of the conversations currently taking place in animal welfare. So it's pretty
I
cool.
have never AI'd myself, so thank you for that. Interesting
Yeah,
profile.
it's pretty neat how it accumulates all that stuff based on whatever's out there.
Yeah.
So uh, it's been a great episode, and you have some cool things that you're working on, and I think there'll be some pushback in some of the things that we talked about as far as property. Agencies are going to have a hard time wrapping their head around that. Again, we can drill down on that maybe next episode, but we do appreciate you taking the time and the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And as we like to say on this show, let's continue to help people
Help animals.
and keep it humane.
Keep it in.